Welcome to Anyone's Game. Today we take a look at Century Spice Road.
Today we are talking about Century Spice Road.
Century Spice Road is a 2 to 5 player game by Emerson Matsauchi and published by Plan B Games.
And possibly
Asmodee, since they own everything.
Very much. 2 to 5 player game, although realistically 4 or 5 is probably where you're aiming for your sweet spot, because 2 has some adjustments to the rules and it just doesn't flow the same way. You don't have as much coming off the board and moving, so it becomes kind of stale. Well, it becomes stale anyway, but it becomes stale quicker with a 2 or 3 player game.
A plus for this game for me was that there are no dice involved, since I have no luck with dice, so it was nice that I didn't have to deal with that.
He's not kidding. Really not kidding. So one of the big things, I don't know if you can go through Board Game Geek and watch all the reviews. There's a very strong encampment on either side. Either you're a Splendor fan or you're a Century Spice Road fan. Everyone's talking about Splendor killers or et cetera, and it's not a Splendor killer. I think there's enough difference in the games, although they are dramatically similar, that like I was saying earlier, it's more like Century Spice Road is the better-looking cousin instead of the actual Splendor killer.
I've only played this as a 4-player game, but I enjoyed the play that we had. I like the artwork, and the component quality seems nice, but the thing that I will have to say is that it was reminiscent to me of Dominion, and by that I simply mean that it seemed like 4 players sitting around the table trying to build an engine of cards to get something happening, but there's not a ton of player interaction. The biggest part of player interaction that I saw with this was in our conveyor belt style of cards that were out in front of us. I would spot one that I knew that I wanted to get, and before the round came back around to my turn, somebody else would take that card. That was the biggest amount of player interaction that I can say was in the game.
You have to look away because you're like, oh, they're taking that card too. Oh, they're taking that card, damn it. Gotta rearrange everything.
You would need to keep your poker face on when people are stealing your cards.
No, I just swear at them and accuse them of horrible things. But let's see here. So the quality of the product is good. The card isn't a satin finish, but the nice sturdy stock. And again, I will point out that the coins are beyond cool. I can't explain my fondness of just the metal coins, although it adds a level to it that, again, I can't explain. It's just so cool. What else we have?
One of your biggest problems with the box, though, the component quality is good, but there's a custom insert for the game which doesn't seem to hold all of the standard cards that they supplied in the game. This is not that we have a game here that has an expansion to it or any additional cards added. This is the base game, and it doesn't quite seem to hold. I imagine with the cellophane wrap still on the cards and it packed down that it fit really well.
Now, if you have a heavy weight sitting on top inside the box, it'll work perfectly, but on its own, not so much. There's also, again, since we're talking about component quality, the game in and of itself doesn't come with this mat, but if you're going to own the game, get the mat. I know with a lot of games when you're dealing with tables like this or anything of the sort, the cards just sort of flip around and do whatever they want. Put them on a foam mat and they just sit there. It's a gorgeous mat. It gives you a place for all of your cheesy little bowls with the colored spices. What else? I like the engine building portion of the game in the sense that you're building engines as fast as you can to try to beat others' engines. I think that aspect of engine building stalls out a little too early in the game, where you halfway through the game, you're done building your engine. It's more just a matter of paperwork at that point.
And everybody's just waiting their turns out so that their engine can accumulate what they need to win.
Pretty much, yeah. And then because of that, in some aspects, if someone gets a better set of cards first, they're going to be the runaway winner. And this game doesn't really address runaway winners. So you see them bowling away, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get some chicken.
Yeah, since there's not really any direct way of affecting any other player, if somebody starts to take the lead, there's very little you can do about slowing them down.
Yeah, these games are nice, but there's not nearly enough FU in them to make them fun. And I know you sensitive gamers out there really hate the FU games, but there needs to be more interaction. Let's see here. So again, there's no player interactions. Sometimes the initial draws, like I had stated, can add to the runaway first player aspect of the game. There's only the mildest possible case of AP. I mean, you've really got to have one of your friends who's AP hardcore to go, ooh, do I want 2 red or 3 yellow? And I've seen it happen, so you laugh, but it's frightening. Either take your turn or it's his turn. No, but wait, you're going to lose by 3 or you're going to lose by 2. Move on.
I did notice there were a few cards in the game where, as I've said to you before, I thought that there was a little bit of inconsistency with the way that the spices were, this is worth 2 of this is worth 2 of this kind of thing. There seemed like there should be a very consistent economy of spices, and there are a few cards in here that kind of break that, because you can use actions to trade in some of your spices in order to get other spices. And there are a couple of cards in there where all of a sudden it almost seems to reverse the role of what something is worth versus another spice.
Right, and then predominantly I've gone through and done the math. I know. I've gone through and I've done the math, and they're predominantly pretty evenly spaced out math-wise, but there are, like you said, 3 or 4 or 5 different cards in there that just kind of throw a wrench in it. It works, which can be good, can be bad. If you're not the runaway winner, it might help you out, and if you are, well, then you're just further ahead. Let's see here. Now, as I was saying earlier, is when you're playing the game about halfway through, people stop drawing cards, and the conveyor aspect of the game. If you want a card that's further into the set, you've got to pay spices onto each card to get it, which I think is interesting. I think it might an interesting balance where, say, you can put 1 yellow down for each space, or since the reds are worth more, you could put 1 red down for every other space, and it would have created a more dynamic feel of using the appropriate spices to get where you wanted and keeping for later use. But again, that's just me. There's no real variability in the game. Again, it's card balance issues like we were talking about earlier. There's other than that, I think that's pretty much it. It doesn't come with the mat, which irritated me. It did come with the coins, which again are inordinately cool. Opponents are good.
Aesthetically, it's very pleasing. I like the artwork on the cards. The colors that they use are vibrant, as I have said before. There are a lot of Euro-style games that just seem to be layer upon layer of beige, so I appreciated that there was a bit of color in the cards for this game.
And he and I disagree on the artwork. He thinks it's good, and I've heard everyone say it's a lot of good work, but I mean,
if you're a fan of the artwork from Ash's Rise of the Phoenix-born, Fernando Suarez does some of the art for this, so you may be looking at, I can't exactly say similar styles here, but certainly similar quality.
Right. Again, another issue I might think about, as we'd mentioned, that was previously, the cards, the color on the cards. And again, this is kind of far from the camera, so you can't see it. Not really built for colorblind people. So as you were saying earlier, you can trade 2 gray pieces in for 3 gray pieces, and it'll work out nicely that way. But in answer to, I guess we're at the end at this point where we talk about what we liked or didn't like, or there's more issues you want to discuss?
Yeah, let's go ahead and lay it out. What was it that you liked, and what did you not like?
This game is very Excel spreadsheety. You know what you have to have, you know what you want. So it's just a matter of going through and waiting your turn and doing. I like games like that. There's games like, what was it? The one about the power. There's a number of Excel spreadsheet type games out there where it's more of a puzzle than it is a game. This game obviously can't be played one player. It would have been interesting to have that done because it's that kind of game. But I enjoy that. I enjoy the components. I think, again, this game suffers from if you don't play with the right people, it's going to be a slog, and it's going to suck all the fun out of it. So be careful with that.
As I said, I enjoyed the component quality, the art in the game. I thought it's a very well-produced piece. The player mat certainly adds a lot to it. And the metal coins, I have to admit that when we first played those and you get to hear them clink on the table, that was probably a bit of satisfaction that was, I can't say unearned.
Make it rain, baby. Make it rain.
So I enjoyed that. The thing that I didn't like, as I said, it seems to be that it's a lot of people sitting at the table and they're each playing a solitaire game against one another only in points. There's not any player interaction where you can screw someone over or take away a runaway leader. So
we suggest that if there aren't swear words or alcohol involved, this probably isn't the game for you.
yes, very much a beer and pretzels. So on our scale of keep, peep, or weep, I think we're going to go peep on this one.
Definitely thumbs in the middle.
Thumbs sideways.
If you have Splendor and you like Splendor, and you can have both. They're both good games, and they're different enough to be able to play both. Should you have one over the other? No, not really. I mean, if you're a deep Splendors fan, although there's some expansions for Splendors that came out recently that may change
Splendor
that.
Cities is out, right?
I haven't plunked the money down for that because I'm questionable. But again, you can have both and be happy. Obviously, if you have one and can get the other one on sale, props to you. Thank you for viewing. What are we called again? Whose game is it anyway?
No, anybody's game.
Thanks for watching Anybody's Game. You may or may not see another review at this point. Have a great day, and thanks for calling.
Thanks, everyone.